Have you ever spent an hour preparing your listing presentation? You confidently go over to the seller's house, you present it, you show them all the facts, the education, you think you were spot on, and they look you dead in the eye and they say their home's worth $50,000 more than you recommended, and that's where they want to list it. In this situation, one of two things happens. A, the agent is afraid they're going to lose the listing, so they simply agree with the seller just to sign them, right? Or the agent tries to prove the seller wrong and ends up losing the listing in the process, winning the argument, losing the business, right? This is something we see a lot. The answer lies somewhere in the middle. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to properly handle that pricing objection when you get it from the seller. I posted a video a few weeks ago that talked about the importance of having integrity in these situations and the pros of being honest with the seller and taking them through that. But a lot of agents were saying, okay, that's great, I agree. What does that look like? So in this video, we're going to dive into that objection specifically. Yes, it's a script, but it's more of a mindset of how you want to approach the conversation. Because I think scripts can be too robotic. But when you understand the message that you're trying to get across in that framework, you can use it, you can be yourself and use that more successfully in a diverse range of situations. So let's bring ourselves to that point in the listing presentation. It's the end, you've gone through it. You're hoping that you see eye to eye. But anybody that's done this long enough knows 50% of the time you might see eye to eye, 50% of the time you're going to get a challenge here. So instead of fearing it, almost embrace it and be ready for it. That's the first mindset tip. Don't get upset when they challenge it. You or I would probably do the same thing. We all want to make sure we're netting the most money, and if it's not something we do every day, of course we're going to challenge that and say, can't we get a little more, right? So when you get that, I like to take a little a breath inside, right? Not just settle my body down, right? And then go into the approach that I've practiced over the years. So try not to get reactive and defensive. Try to calmly, work on it together. So I appreciate you bringing that up, Mr. or Mrs. Seller. Everybody I meet with wants to make sure, they're getting the most money. Can I share a thought with you on that, right? Give them permission. Don't just tell them they're wrong. Yeah, sure. You can share your thought. I've never had someone say no in that situation. If you've taken them, if they've invited you into their home, you've presented, they're going to listen to your thought. Can I ask you to take your seller's hat off for a minute and put your buyer's hat on, right? If you were shopping for a new property and you had two similar properties you looked at, same style house, similar square footage, both of them had a few different pros and cons you like, but for all intensive purposes, they were pretty close. One was priced at $700,000 and one was priced at $650,000. Which one would you buy? Almost everyone is going to answer the $650,000, right? Then don't just leave it at that. Follow up. Wouldn't you want to take that extra $50,000 and do exactly what you would want to do to the home personally? On that home that's priced $50,000 less, right? And again, most sellers will agree with you here. They say, then follow up again. Don't tell them, well, wouldn't you think most buyers would feel the same way? Or wouldn't you agree most buyers would feel the same way? So do you want to price it high? And this is where the market would take effect of where I'd go with this. Do you want to price it high so it sits there and we get a little bit of interest? Or do you want to price it on target so we can create competition and make sure we're getting you the best price and terms, right? So I'm asking a lot of questions. I'm not telling them. I'm giving them some feedback from experience. I'm not telling them they're wrong. And then I'm listening and trying to walk them through that process. Now that's how I would say it in a good market. If it's more of a buyer's market, I would use the same strategy, but towards the end I would say, do you want to price it high so it just sits there and doesn't get any showings? Or do you want to price it in in line with the competition, so buyers will look at yours and make offers on yours versus just looking at all the other homes on the market, right? So try to tie it into the market conditions too. And you don't have to use that word for word. Again, I don't want you to feel like a robot, but I want you to understand the framework. We want to get them out of the seller's perspective, put them in the buyer's perspective. Take them through that process and understand that a buyer has options. Even in a low inventory market, a buyer has options. Many times in a low inventory market, the buyer won't even look at a home if they don't think it's priced right, because in their mind, they got to pay asking price or more. So it can be even more important to creating that competition that you don't want to, leave on the table. If you're still getting pushback there, again, I wouldn't just give up. I also wouldn't just agree with them, right? Because you don't want to be the agent that's just going to tell the seller whatever they want to hear, and then you put it on the market, it just sits there. You're not going to sell it. They're going to be upset with you, right? And it's going to be a very stressful situation for you as the agent. This is where a lot of the bad reviews come from and things like that, because we as agents didn't give them a proper expectation, from the beginning. So if they push back there, I'm going to agree, okay, so you still think it's worth $50,000 more based on X, Y, Z. When do you think buyers traditionally make their best offer? Right? And they're going to say, I don't know, or in that first week, and yet you can agree or tell them it's usually in that first 7 days. Our average days on market is blank. Make sure you have that, like for your town. Our average days on market is 5. Right? So when the property's new and exciting, that's when people come out with their best offers or maybe even fight over it. What do you think they do when the property's been on the market 3 or 4 weeks? Right? And they'll answer, most people say, well, they might think something's wrong or they think it's priced too high. So do you want to experiment in the beginning or take advantage of that time you can never get back? Right? We're just using our experience to ask questions. We're not telling them what to do. We're not telling them they're wrong. Right? And that's the best way to attack that situation where you have a seller who's a little bit off on price and you need to help them see reality. Obviously, this is situational. I know a lot of you have seen some different curveballs in those situations. If you want to talk anything through, I'm happy to do it. Don't be shy. Call, text, email. We get calls and messages all the time from people who are watching these videos. I hope this helps. Give it a try on your next pricing challenge. Let me know how it goes.